Hi everyone, it's Diane with Batik, and today is Fabric Friday. Today we are talking about our 5-ounce batik canvas and all the wonderful things we can make with this canvas. In the past, I'm sure you have seen all of our handbags and tote bags, and this one here I really absolutely love is the Sidekick. And this is a pattern by Annie Patterns, and it uses our 5-ounce canvas plus batik cotton coordinates and all the notions to make this cute little bag. And I just really love the color. I love the intensity of everything when it comes to our canvas. The other projects that we've made recently with the canvas, for example, this is a Delaware jacket. So if you're a garment sewist, the canvas is also wonderful as this is like a lightweight jacket. It's not lined, zipper front, and it's just perfect for our spring weather right now. It actually turned a little bit cold, so I'm wearing a winter jacket again, but this is absolutely perfect for a spring coat. And we also have, as you probably know, our heavier weight canvas, which is 8.6 ounces, and that also can be used for any of our the handbags, for purses, for jackets, for garments, whatever it happens to be. But today I really want to focus on the 5-ounce canvas. And that brings us to the topic of today, which is the most recent project that I attempted to sew with the canvas. It is the Riley overalls, and this is a pattern by True Bias. And I really love the look of the fabric. I love the look of the overalls. I love how it feels. And I really think I selected the perfect weight of our canvas for these overalls. I just love it. Let's jump over and talk a little bit about the overalls and why I love this project so much. One of the reasons why I selected the Riley overalls for this project was simply because it really looks like a traditional classic overall. We have front pockets. We have both a large pocket and a small pocket. Actually, I'm going to set down these patterns. We have belt loops, and I don't know whether or not I'd ever put a belt on this, but it's really a very clever addition. We have side pockets, and on the right side, there's actually a smaller coin pocket as well. Everything was really thought out so very well. We have 2 large pockets also on the back side, and a very, very fun traditional crossover for the straps. And just the hardware look, all of it really just looks beautiful. This is, I don't remember exactly which colorway hardware I selected, but I did purchase the hardware directly from the True Bias website because she had everything put together in a beautiful pack, which was perfect for my first project. And as you can see, I selected our 5-ounce canvas. This is the 5-ounce canvas this time. And this is the Phoenix motif in the shade of Twilight Blue. When I was working through this project and sewing each piece, I got to the point of attaching the larger pocket, and I decided I was going to switch that up a little bit. So think about different ways that you can individualize your overalls or any project that you work on. I really wanted to set off the various pocket sizes and kind of felt like it was too much of one fabric when I was sewing this. So I went back into my stash of fabric and found that I did have a smaller piece of the hand-dyed Twilight Blue, which is the coordinate to our Phoenix motif. And so I switched out the larger pocket, and I think it really sets off the different sized pockets really, really well. But it's really a simple, and I really think it's a classic style overall, and I'm really excited to wear this summer. I think it's going to be so much fun. Let's talk a little bit about the pattern itself. The Riley Overalls is available in 2 different sizes. So we have a size range of 0 to 18 and 14 to 32. So look at the backs of these patterns to understand your body measurements, and then compare them also to the finished garment measurements. This project has about 4 inches, if you do the math, 4 inches of ease. And I actually found that to be very accurate, as it should be, I suppose, but it really does have that 4 inches of ease. And so I found my body measurements was really comfortable with the ease around it, and just stuck with that. Now, the one thing to think about when it comes to overalls, and probably pants in general, I'm not a pant expert, but I don't know what it is. I'm going to be making pants all year this year, I think. But concentrate on your waist and your hip measurement, primarily your hip measurement, and then take it from there. So that's what I focused on, which was my hip, because that's really that touch point that I talk about all the time. And then you can grade in or out to the waist, as well as to the overall bib area, which really needs to conform to your bust measurements. But just know that it is very open, and with a traditional overall, you're going to have your side buttons, which it was really great to install jean buttons. I hadn't done that before, so that was kind of fun. So we have our jean buttons, and that's how you make it easy to put on and off your overalls, because there is no fly zipper in the front. This is a faux fly, and I don't know, the buttons just look beautiful on either side. And then we'll talk a little bit about the pocket, the inside pocket itself, and what's required of that. But in the pocket, you have a coordinating cotton. And so, actually, I don't know why I'm closing this. I should show you. We selected kind of a fun green fabric, and this is from our cotton collection. This is the Phoenix in the colorway of Robin's Egg Green. And I just think that it adds a little bit of life and character to any project that you make. Nobody's really going to ever see it, but I think it's just fun that you know that you had something really fun inside for your pocket. The only other notion, let me put it this way, besides the hardware, is you need a little bit of interfacing. And from time to time, I think about, I should say from project to project, I think about whether or not I need to use interfacing when we're working with our canvas fabric. The 5-ounce does really need a little bit of extra stability where this project is concerned anyway. So the interfacing is used in the pockets to keep them kind of stiff at the opening. So all of the pockets, the front back pockets, and the facing to our side pockets all require interfacing. If you're thinking about making overalls or jeans out of the 8.6-ounce canvas, the heavier weight canvas, I don't think you really need any interfacing. When I stitched up a Simplicity jacket using our heavier canvas, I really bypassed the interfacing because it has such of a rigid structure to it in the first place that I don't think the interfacing would add any additional stability besides an additional thickness under your needle when you're stitching your garment together. But it is definitely a great plan to add your interfacing to this overall project. I used SF 101, which is a heavier interfacing, and I think it was the perfect weight for this project. Let's talk a little bit about a few lessons learned. I would say my number one lesson learned is to challenge myself a little bit more. This project, as with most jeans or overalls, it takes a little bit of time for the top stitching. And so every single edge, every pocket edge, all the way around has 2 stitch lines. And I think, I just used blue on blue for this project. I probably could have been a little bit bolder and used a red top stitching thread or a more traditional gold or gold/orange to really set off some of, I don't know, I just think the whole top stitch around the waist, the belt loops, every bit of it would have had a little bit more pizzazz to it. So think about that before you start your project, is what color do you want your top stitching? Lesson number 2 is don't use pins so much. Instead, definitely use double-sided basting tape. I have to tell you, ever since I learned about double-sided basting tape when making handbags and tote bags and attaching a strap in the middle of a piece of fabric, it really is a lifesaver, and for 2 reasons. One, it allows you to put the pieces of fabric together without pins, which keeps everything perfectly flat. So on this particular project, whenever I was adding a facing to the pocket, the inside of the garment where we're attaching the facing that covers up the join between the pant and the bib, when we flip that piece up, and I'm going to show you a picture here that I took when I was sewing the garment together, I lined the top of that facing with the double-sided basting tape. Press that in place, and you don't even have to use an iron. You just simply finger press that in place, and then you can go to your sewing machine and top stitch as you need to, and following the instructions along the bottom edge of that facing and the top edge of that facing without having any pins in place. I just really love using this tape whenever it's a little bit bulky of an area. So when I was attaching the belt loops even, what I did is I pressed under each edge of those belt loops using the double-sided basting tape, just set them on and positioned them right on the garment itself, and then stitched across both edges without it even moving. And I just think that just little tips and techniques like that make it so much easier, and I think makes your garment look a little bit more precise when you're sewing. But use any technique that you'd like. I just really find it so much easier to have that precise seam or that facing finish or whatever it happens to be with the double-sided basting tape. Lesson number 3 might seem obvious, but I'm going to mention it anyway. On our pattern pieces, we have little notches, and those notches are for matching our seams or for matching the placement of, say, for example, a pocket to the side of our hip area of this pant, or for joining our seams together and making sure that everything lines up perfectly. There's a couple of ways of indicating on your fabric where that notch is. Most of the time, I will take, understanding my seam allowance, and for this one it's a 1/2 inch, I'll take and I'll use my scissors to just snip in where that notch is, right on the fabric. This time, what I did is I cut out the notches externally. So I followed the markings on my pattern piece and I cut the notches so that they were visible on my fabric. That is typically a good plan. It's great. But the one thing with this pattern is that the instructions are to always finish the edges of our pattern piece before sewing the seam together. By finishing the edges, either with an overlock stitch or a zigzag stitch or even pinking shears, we are cutting off our notch. We're removing that marking that's going to help us match up our seams or match up the placement, for example, of the pocket on the side of the overalls. And so what I had to do was think about that ahead of time and said, oh, that wasn't smart. Now I don't have my little clip, my scissor clip into the fabric to know where I'm going to match up that marking later on. So I just took a fabric pencil and made a line on the wrong side of the fabric to make sure that I could match up and know where those notches were when I needed the notches. And so that was one of my lessons learned also, is when I still have my pattern and my fabric on my cutting table after I've cut it out, is to just take a marking pencil or a roller or whatever you use as your marking chalk and just make an extra little mark right where every one of those notches is so that you know where they are. Lesson number 4 is very similar to lesson number 3, which is, where are we putting all of our placement marks? We each probably have a way of folding our fabric on the table and then laying out our pattern pieces and cutting out each one of the pattern pieces. I normally work with my right side of the fabric inside. So I'm laying out my pattern piece on the wrong side of the fabric, just so that I have access to that fabric when I want to put all my markings down. Because typically most of the markings, like our darts and any placement markings that are inside, are on the wrong side of the fabric. For this project, everything but the dart is on the right side of the fabric. Next time I make one of these, I will put, when I fold my fabric and get it all ready to lay out my pattern pieces, I'm going to make sure that the right side of the fabric is on the outside, because it'll make it so much easier to mark all of the placements on this particular pattern. So wherever there is a button, wherever there is the edge, front 2 placement edges of a pocket, front, sides, and back, we need markings. And so I would have saved a lot of time ahead of time had I simply had the fabric going the other direction and really paid attention to which side of the fabric I need to place all of my placement markings. Now, there is one way to really eliminate worrying about that in general, and I don't know if you do this, but when I first learned how to sew, I learned to use a needle and thread to go through our placement mark and then cut the thread before and after, so that when you're taking off your pattern piece, you have your markings on your fabric. And it doesn't matter whether or not it's on the right side or the wrong side, because you have a thread marking both sides. It's going through your fabric. And that is a technique I might start going back to, which is simply using thread and not chalk. If it makes sense and I'm not really paying attention to which side of the garment I need to have my marking. So that is my lesson number 4. So if you've been planning on sewing jeans or overalls, definitely take a look at our website. We have new kits on our website, and you can select from the 5-ounce canvas or the heavier weighted 8.6-ounce canvas to make your overalls. So I typically start out showing on our website for a kit a few of our favorite fabric options. So you can select from one of those, or there's also an option to customize your own kit. And you'll see a little space below that description that allows you to type in the fabric of your choice. So you can select from any of our available canvas fabrics and make this perfect for yourself. We always have the pattern as an optional add-on. And with that comes a little bit of a discount on the pattern price because you're buying this garment kit. So if you already do have the Riley overalls pattern, then you don't have to worry about adding that on to the project kit itself. So we'll include the interfacing as well. And eventually we'll have the hardware, but for now, I'm going to link you over to the True Bias website so that you can buy that simple hardware pack in the colorway of your choice. We've been talking a lot about the Batik Canvas, and I think what I'd like to share with you now are some ideas for what we can do for a top, a t-shirt, a top, whether it be made from our woven fabric or a jersey knit. I think there's a lot of options for accenting the overalls with a really comfy top. And one of the first tops that I was thinking about is the square neck top by Friday Pattern Company. And I think just the whole look and the ease and the comfort of this pattern will be perfect. And this is written for both a jersey knit and a woven fabric. So you have your choice of which fabric you absolutely love for yourself. I just love this pattern. The next garment pattern I was thinking about is the Montrose top, which is a pattern by Cashmerette. And I know a lot of you have this pattern, but it's just a simple top with simple short sleeves or a little 3/4 length sleeve if you'd like, but a comfortable loose fitting top. When I'm thinking about knits, one of my favorite go-to patterns is this Butterick 6848 is the number. And I love this one because I've been able to get the fit right. I have my standard muslin for this particular pattern, and it has neckline variations, it has sleeve length variations, and I might even attempt to make just a tank top, a sleeveless top to wear during the hot summer months as well. So I think you would love this particular pattern. A really basic, simple pattern to have on hand also is the Scout tee. Simple neckline, loose fitting, simple to make. You can make this in an hour, but again, it's for jersey knit. And Grainline also has variation options on their website for different sleeves and different finishings that you can check out as well. Now, there's never a project without talking about itch to stitch. I love the itch to stitch patterns. And actually the top I'm wearing underneath this jacket is the Glenelly top. And this is the pattern cover for the Glenelly top. It has a really fun neckline to it, and it's a raglan sleeve style. It's just so simple to make, and it is great fitting as well. So look for the Glenelly top, and it's also a dress, so you get more than one option with this particular pattern. And new this week from Itch to Stitch is a pattern that I just downloaded because I have to have it, and it is the Venado top. Look at how fun this is. I think it's going to be fun to select a jersey knit to work with this pattern. It has a beautiful shawl collar neckline, and it has like a traditional polo finish. So we've got a couple of buttons, and it can be short sleeve or long sleeve. So it's a really great versatile top specifically for a jersey knit. So there's so many different options, and I think my biggest challenge now is what fabric color do I select to go with the overall. So you'll have to stay tuned with my decision on what I'm going to make with that. I'll probably make a few different tops, but I'm really excited to make a top to go with these overalls. As you probably can tell, I really enjoyed stitching up the Riley overalls with our Batik Canvas, and I thoroughly enjoy working with every one of our fabrics, but recently I guess I'm really kind of enjoying the canvas a lot. Hopefully you can see that, and you learned a little bit about this project, a little bit about our canvas, and some of my lessons learned. But if you have additional questions, add a question or a comment below in the comment section, and I'll make sure that I answer every single one of the comments Follow us on our social media, both Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest, and of course on our website, and sign up for our e-newsletter so that you can hear all about our new projects, our new videos, and our batik fabric, specifically our batik fabric and notions. So until next Friday or the next video, keep sewing, smiling, and sharing.